Hello and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm your host, Jessica Van Antwerp, owner and trip leader for Integral Travel. And today we're talking about the second of our 8 tenets of wellness in particular order, but we're continuing with the 8 tenets of wellness series. And as our guest today to talk about movement and the beauty of yoga, we have Miss Kendall Beene. So Kendall is most salient to our discussion today. She's one of the co-leaders for our upcoming jungle yoga retreat in Thailand at the end of March. She is also a beloved yoga teacher, a lead teacher trainer, and the owner of New Yoga Now studio in Savannah, Georgia. She's been studying yoga for nearly 30 years and teaching for almost 20. A scientist at heart, Kendall's years of study and teaching geology are a major influence in her practice and teaching, while focused strongly on curiosity, process, and digging deep into visualize what is happening beneath the surface. This work has gifted her with the ability to truly see and listen to her students. Kendall's intuitive, soulful teaching style embodies a balance of compassion, strength, and grace. So welcome, Kendall.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica.
You're very welcome. So I was really moved by all of the things that you had to say about movement, to use the root word twice in the same sentence. So I'm curious about your take on movement and its effect on our overall health and well-being in these human bodies.
Wonderful. So for me, I think movement is medicine. In the yoga tradition, there are these kind of 4 dharmas or 4 different levels of awareness that we begin to gain as we maybe sit in meditation or do a practice that helps us to build more awareness. And the first level is simply an awareness of our body and a physical sensation. And I think for a lot of us, movement is it's kind of like a gateway into health and well-being. It's like even in terms of processing emotions, Emily, my friend and cohort that's teaching with me, she likes to say that emotions are energy in motion. And if we don't just simply move the body on a regular basis, then all of that stuff tends to just get kind of stuck in our tissues, and it manifests even as physical pain and even illness in extreme cases. So I think for me, it's movement's like it's like a on a very fundamental level. It's like a daily maintenance, like brushing my teeth.
Right, right. And one of the reasons why I was inspired to include movement in our 8 tenets of wellness is just that very fact, just sort of the physiological function of the human body is, I mean, we're meant to move. All creatures on the face of the planet are meant to move. And it's only in this last 100 years, and then especially in the last 10, 20, 30 years, as we're getting more into the digital age, that we've stopped moving our bodies so much, and we spend so much time sedentary in front of the computer. But when we look at nature and the examples of movement in nature, we see that movement keeps other things healthy as well. So you take like a stream, for example, and the water filters itself as it moves, versus looking at the water in like a stagnant pond where there's pond scum growing and all sorts of bacteria, and you wouldn't want to drink that water. So I think the same can be said for our bodies, which sort of ties into the water and hydration tenet of wellness that we'll be discussing next week. But because our bodies are 75-ish% water, just gentle movement of the body helps filter the things within our bodies, helps get those emotions, like you said, moving, and is just so good for us on a daily basis. The other thing that I really wanted to highlight with relation to this tenet of wellness is that, in the health and wellness industry now, there's so much focus on exercise, and I think a lot of people have this preconception that to exercise and to move their bodies, it has to be this like either 1 or 2 hour long workout or this really hardcore thing, but that's really not the case. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I can speak to this from my own experience. In my early 20s, it wasn't a good day if I didn't bike to school, swim on my lunch break, take a yoga class, go rock climbing after school. And I very much lived that way for a long time. And I love that you mentioned our ancestors and watching nature. I mean, even just watching your dog or house cat, even though they're very domesticated animals, just watching the way that they lay down, they sleep, 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 they eat, they run around, they move, they sleep. Those kind of natural movement cycles, as I have aged, I have watched in myself and in my clients, like such a more sustainable type of wellness and fitness. I I think about traveling too, and how if I'm in a really rigid workout routine where like I have to go to this certain place and I have to have this certain gear and I have to work out for, 60 to 75 minutes in order to feel okay, then when I'm pulled out of my environment, I'm less likely to do anything because I don't know how to do all those things
Right.
if I'm taken away from that source. And it's really simple. Like we can get up, just standing up and taking a break from your desk and dancing around or taking a
Yeah.
walk. And certainly when you're traveling, um, just walking everywhere. I mean, that's what I love about traveling in Europe or places where it's conducive to just walking everywhere. It doesn't matter that I'm eating the pasta and the bread and drinking the wine because I'm walking everywhere every day, and
Right.
I'm keeping that energy moving. So I think it's so nice to kind of free ourselves from that. Like it has to be really intense. It has to be a certain way. Um, because if you look at our ancestors, they were moving constantly, but they were just doing simple. They were, moving to hunt things and to gather the food and to, you
Right.
know, from space to space. So that's how our bodies were designed to move.
Yeah. So I like that you point out the sort of like rigidity of a routine because I have definitely fallen into that trap myself. I got into this like at home workout where I was doing like 30-minute, like 25-minute videos at home in my basement. And I had this like rhythm and routine. And I thought it was really good to have routine, because people talk about it's good to have routine. But we were evacuated from our home in November for a small fire that had broken out, and so we luckily everything turned out well. We were only evacuated for one night, but even that one night in the hotel where we stayed, that next morning I was so proud of myself. I did get up and do my routine, but it was a different setting and I was on carpet, which I wasn't used to being on. And so I like tweaked my back doing this twisting motion. And then that like totally derailed the whole routine because I didn't want to work out to inflame my back and make it worse. And anyway, I like the advice of a little more flexibility in the workout routine and even I think even that word, workout routine or that phrase rather, could use some tweaking in our own vernacular because words are so powerful. So in my exercise regimen, maybe I should say, but I do have the benefit of having a job that's in motion. I work table side as a massage therapist for most of my day and shiatsu practitioner. So I'm always up and moving, and that decreases my need for other concentrated movement time in the day. Because I'm not just sitting in front of a computer all day. But so
Yeah.
to your point, how do you incorporate movement in a more like fluid fashion in your life on a daily basis?
Oh, well, like you, I have a really active lifestyle. I'm a yoga teacher, and I've pare down. I was just talking with my business partner this morning. I'm actually only teaching 3 classes on the schedule at the studio per week, which 2 years ago, each of us
Wow.
were teaching 10. And so we've managed to
Right.
hire enough teachers. And so I am sitting at the computer a lot more than I ever was before, but I'm up, I'll have a private client here or a class there. But, I walk, I live downtown in Savannah. I don't know if you've spent any time here. It's a beautiful city, and the weather's mild, and I can walk anywhere. I can't walk to work, but I can ride my bike to work. And my studio is about 2 miles from my house. So anytime that I don't have to carry a whole bunch of things with me and I could just ride my bike to work, ride back home, get some work done at the computer, I can walk to meet my daughter and bring her home from school.
Right.
That kind of like lifestyle really keeps me from having to go do these like, oh, it's time to work out. I have to go do this hour of working out.
Right.
And just standing up a lot, I sit right here and do a lot of my work at this desk. And I just, about every 25 minutes or so, I'll sometimes even, I don't know if you've heard of the Pomodoro timer. It's for time management, really, but you take tasks in 25-minute chunks, and I'll just make sure there's movement after that, even if it's
Nice.
just stretching or dancing or like you said, look at the animals and how they move. Like, we're
Yeah,
animals too. We're nature
that's
too.
true. Yeah. Well, that's a great, the Pomodoro technique is a great little tool for people who do have to sit in front of a computer all day, to incorporate as ways to get more movement in their life. So, do you have any other tips or tricks that you might suggest to people who are struggling to get movement in their life? Things that they might do in order to incorporate it on a more regular basis rather than, like we said, kind of set aside like a big chunk of time for like an exercise or, workout.
Yeah, I would just say start small. I mean, and I don't know that this is different from what I said before, but there are so many resources, even on YouTube, like free desk yoga video or something. And that's the beauty of
Right.
yoga, is that you really don't need any gear. I mean, I used to have to have a certain mat. I used to have to have a certain outfit, and like I wanted to be at the same spot in the studio room when I first started. And that can be like okay if that helps you to, cultivate that habit, but you really don't you can stand up at your desk in your desk clothes and just kind of move and stretch. And it's amazing how, I mean, even just like stretching your arms up feels so good,
Mm,
and we
I'm
take
gonna
it
do
for
that one.
granted sometimes. Yeah, it's like that refresher. That's the kind of like energy movement that we need to be incorporating. But I would say, yeah, just starting small, starting with like little chunks of time, um, and just not getting into that trap of feeling like, well, if I don't look like these people on the yoga videos or the Instagram, then
Right.
yoga's not for me.
Right. I find it really funny when people say, "Oh, I can't do yoga," and it immediately is, lets me know that they don't know what yoga is, really, because there is no not doing yoga. Like if you can breathe and you can move your body, then you can do yoga. You may not be flexible, and to your point, you may not like look like the teacher or that person on the cover of the magazine or whatever, but you're not going to ever become more like that person if you don't do it. So it's
Exactly.
the doing the practice that opens your body to be able to go deeper into the postures and become more flexible and more fluid. And to that point, that just reminded me of, that term more fluid in your body is like the literal idea of flow in the body, energy in the body, so that when we become more fluid and more flexible, then we have the ability to be more flexible in other parts of our lives as well, like psychologically more flexible and emotionally more flexible, rather than so, rigid, and one little blow just makes you shatter or break like a brittle piece of wood. you know
Absolutely. I love that too. And I love, back to your analogy of the stream, like a healthy stream system that's moving versus a stagnant bog that, might have a lot of bacteria growing or whatever.
Right.
Um, I just again and again am blown away in my background with science at how much we can learn by looking at nature.
Yeah.
And it's all, we always want to complicate things, I feel like, as humans, and it really is very simple, that all of life
Right.
is constantly moving and changing. We're
Yeah.
constantly moving and changing, so we just have to be aware enough and present enough to walk in balance with what, like some days I need to eat a lot, and I've learned now at my age that I trust that. And on those days where I'm just like, wow, I'm really hungry, like I want to
Yeah.
eat potatoes, and and then it might be the next day that I don't hardly need much food at all, and it's like
Right.
starting to trust that intuitive sense about movement, because that's like what we are what we eat, and then we move to process that, and then
Mhm.
it's a constant, like, just an intuitive walk in balance. The animals know how to do it. Children really know
Mhm.
how to do
Yeah.
it. And at some point along the way, we start to try to turn it into some kind of rigid system, and we really don't have to.
Right. Right. That's so true. Um, well, your insights into movement and yoga have been really really beautiful today, and I hope anyone that's watching and everyone that watches the recordings once they get posted on all the channels learn something. If they want to get in touch with you and have any more questions for you, how can they do that?
Absolutely. So please visit our website at newyoganow.com. And that website has everything about our local classes, but we also live stream all of our classes. So you can take our classes. We had someone from in Barbados yesterday in one of my classes. That website also has connections to other things that I'm up to. Emily and I are co-leading online course beginning next week called You Can End Your Overwhelm, helping you move from overwhelmed to empowered. All that information is there. And then you can check me out on social media at Yoga Kendall and at New Yoga Now as well.
Great. Well, thanks so much again for taking the time to share your expertise and your really like grounded and simple approach to health. I think we need that in our sort of like in the convoluted health and wellness industry. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. If you like what you see and you want more health and wellness tips from us, go to our website, integraltravel.com. And you can also follow us on the social channels, integral.travel on Facebook and Instagram. And if you just search Integral Travel on any of the other channels, Twitter, YouTube, then you'll be able to find us. So be sure to tune in next week. Little preview. We're going to be talking about the hydration tenet of wellness and the importance of water. And we sort of touched into that a little bit today. But my guest next week will be Brielle Bataille, who has a particular, some just particular juicy nuggets to share about water and the importance of water in our lives. So thanks again so much. And we hope to see you soon. Bye.